In the teaching that I do, the thing that became obvious to me many years ago, it's been 15 years now, was that the fundamental issue, the fundamental problem is that for each one of us, something happened and we literally turned against ourselves. We had an early experience, maybe of not being fed on time, or maybe something simple about not being cared for in a loving way. And we concluded that I'm not good enough, I don't matter. With that conclusion, we are now externally referenced. In other words, we have our consciousness, our mind, our senses are turned toward the external to see, how am I doing? Do they really love me? Will I really get dinner? What's going on out there? And so we have self-abandoned on behalf of the external, as if it was cause in the matter of our experience, because as a newborn, as an incarnating being into this 3D reality, it certainly is experienced that way. And so we have good reason for being concerned about what mommy and daddy are fighting about, or what big brother or big sister are not including me in. So it's not something to blame ourselves for, but it is something that at a certain point we need to correct. And the correction comes with, in the image that I use, reclaiming your attention particles from out there, looking like other people or circumstances, or how much money, or how many friends, or whatever we have focused on, to reclaim our attention particles back to ourselves on our own behalf, because having self-abandon has dire consequences. The body takes the hit. When our attention particles are out there, we have left our presence, our consciousness is no longer present, fueling the body where its natural home is. Now it's out there seeing, did I get invited? Do I matter? Does he really love me? Does she really value our friendship? And with that, we are energetically self-abandoning. What it means to be on our own side is to check in here. One of the collective programming bits that leads us to feel confirmed in this direction of being externally referenced is that we're here to serve others. I mean, we've all heard that. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my mother's housekeeper in LA or Alabama would take me home with her, and I'd get to go to the African American Sunday school and church, which I loved. And we were in a Sunday school class, and the teacher was holding forth about how we're here to serve others. We're here to give. We're here to take care of the needy. We have to help other people. And I, at 7 or 6, I think, maybe, I was already in grammar school, put this little white hand up in the middle of this gorgeous sea of black, beautiful beings, feeling really inadequate, but wanting to know. And my question to her is, what are the others going to be doing? If we're here to serve others, then are they here? How does that work? There was something illogical that landed in my little 6-year-old mind as being an error in perception or something. I wouldn't have known to call it that then. So if we are not doing it here, in other words, being on our own behalf, this is not self-centeredness. This is correct alignment with our responsibility. But because of the collective conditioning and our early wounding, we are externally referenced. We're looking for, what do I need to do there so he'll really like me, or what do I need to do here so that I'll be included? And with that shift in energetic perception, we've literally left our body-mind unit, and it suffers thereby. When we believe something, which is the reason that we turn to the external, an erroneous belief, like I don't matter or I'm not good enough, then we are the energy, the frequency of that belief hits the body first, and then it goes into what we call the quantum field. Now, so now it's what it creates. My metaphors get totally mixed, so just keep listening, we'll get there. What starts to happen is that we have a sense here of not being loved because we've self-abandoned. And what happens out there is the information that shows up as our reality that's been informed by that conclusion. Crazy reality, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, it's a little bit mind-boggling. We have people in the Sangha now that are talking about quantum vertigo, because as we look at how the reality out here shows up, and that we know the science that supports the way it shows up is that the observer affects the observed. This was the double slit experiment, right? And so now we're like, I don't want to influence anything. I better be careful. But what we really are wanting to do is to come home to ourselves. The thing that gets lost with the early wounding, when the parents didn't show up on time, or we concluded something about ourselves that may not have had anything to do with their perception of who we are or their valuing of us. When we concluded that we were not good enough or that we didn't matter, then our attention particles went out into external circumstances, looking for information, looking for a way in which I can be valued, looking for a way that if I keep Daddy entertained, then he and Mommy won't fight, or all kinds of circumstances that the child unavoidably misinterprets or even make it right. But what it does is we move into what I call adaptive behaviors. So I want to become cheerful and cute and entertaining to Mommy and Daddy so that they won't fight, right? So now what I've done is that not only have I energetically left myself on behalf of the external, I now am in an adaptive behavior that takes away my ability to authentically express. So now I'm caught up out there, feeling the need to modify or mitigate what's going on out there. I am not saying what's true for me. I'm not expressing what's authentic for me. I'm trying to influence the external. And so that's when we have left authenticity behind. To start to be on our own side as we come to a place in our life where we're doing some kind of spiritual work or some kind of interest in a larger nature of reality, we start to realize that we've made concessions, that we've made adaptive behaviors to try to please or to try to avoid fighting or to try to get attention. All of these motivations are created out of our early wounded conclusion, like I don't matter, I'm not good enough. And so now we are doing something that's not what is authentic to us. It's not what I really want. I really want to stay home and read my books, but my friend needs me to go to lunch with her. Now we are now behaving in a way that's not for us. The really amazing thing to me is the idea that, and I had it for sure, we all do, the idea that if I am for others, that's going to solve the problem here of being for myself. It's incumbent upon us to be true north on our own behalf as a starting place for a reality that reflects back to us health and connection and love and peace and freedom, and everything that we aspire to is already what's present as the name, as the one I am. That's already present, but we override it, we distort it through the lens of our early wounded conclusion. This is a very concentrated perspective that I'm offering But what I want today for everybody to get is that if there's something that you're wanting to experience, it's your job to give it to yourself. You know, I work with people who are in relationship, and often the woman's complaint is, he just doesn't get me. Well, it's her job first to get her. And when she gets her, then her world will change. You know, what does it mean to get somebody to be sensitive to what do they want? Come home and be sensitive to oneself. Tell the truth. I don't want to go to lunch with you today. I need to read my books. Deal with it, you know. I mean, but it's not even that harsh. It's just that we've been so programmed into being in response to the external that we're out of touch with what we want. And so what gets neglected, the reason this is important is because there is a larger reality that's being informed energetically by the frequency that we have that's based in who we're being to ourselves. Is this making sense to everybody?
Yes.
Amen. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's there's a kind of movement in psychological current collective practice now. It has to do with being aware, being on your own side and all of that. But the way in which we can't do it as a correction for what stays in place as a wound. The wound has to be cleared. I have to know myself as everything, as valuable as the one I am. And from that place, I will authentically be expressing on my own behalf. And that's my contribution to a new reality. We have skipped over our very most important contribution to the nature of reality. We have neglected to do what only we can do here. We're the only ones who can be on our own side. Other people will line up to join you there, I promise you, once you are there. Right? We see the world as we are, not as it is. And as we change who we are being towards ourselves, then the nature of reality, the way that reality shows up, will change also. It's an inside job, very powerful understanding. It's been around for a long time, but now we need to bring it into play in the most specific and boots on the ground way. You can't anymore lie to yourself. You may still be able to lie to others about why you're not wanting to have lunch with them, but you need to tell yourself the truth. So it's this is the message for today. It's like, come home to being kind to yourself. Come home to realizing that if you're suffering, you're believing something about yourself that's not true. It may have looked as if somebody else mistreated you, and that may be what the trigger is, but the trigger ultimately takes us to, it's about me. And thank God that's true, because if it's about me, I have access to it. I have access to that wound that created a distortion lens through which I see reality. And with that access, I can start to, it's like my shift and awareness, my awareness of how I haven't been kind to myself. Or, you know, sometimes with the kinds of psychological projections that we do, we will indulge ourselves and be, in quotes, unkind to others, but it's the same thing. It's like I said to the Sunday school teacher, what are the others doing? What about that? Right? And so this shift, it's like we've been externally referenced, we've been equating, calibrating who they are, how they feel about me, what is the expectation, am I good enough, am I whatever we believe about ourselves. And it's to turn back and say, what do I want to experience? Me first. If it's not here, you will not find it out there. That's the radical understanding of the nature of the external reality. We are cause in the matter of how this reality shows up. Very specifically in our own experience, but even in the larger sense also. And so that's the invitation, to be on your own behalf. Just tell the truth to yourself, to come home to representing what you want. It's not against anybody else. It's for you. And that's the one that's been missing for all of these, probably all of these lifetimes. So this is the work that we do together in the Sangha here. This awareness of what it means to do the work, to see if I'm suffering, I'm believing something that's not true. And to use that to find out what is it that I've been believing. It's going to be a self-concept belief. I'm not good enough. I don't matter. Because the minute that that gets installed, then we have the reality that matches it. And then, it's like, believe it, hell, I can prove it. He really didn't call me back, right? It's like, so we have this opportunity of the awareness of the way in which reality works. And with that comes the responsibility to show up in truth, in clarity, and to stop believing what we've always been thinking about ourselves that's never been true, that I don't matter or that I'm not good enough. The truth is, I am everything. That's what's true for each one of us. I am the awake awareness in which realities arise. And from that place, I have integrity here, true north here, within this energetic field of this body-mind unit. And when I do that, I create a new reality. When enough of us are reclaiming our true nature as awake awareness, there will be a shift in reality on this planet. But we have to do it first, right? If not I, who? If not now, when? That's somebody said that. Did I quote that? Yeah. Yeah, so it can seem monumental, but it's just in the small ways of being in the world, in the moment, telling the truth about what's true for me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that.
So Polly,
Yes,
this
Jim.
is all so beautiful. Thank you so much. And I only have one question for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to lunch? Please don't say no.
I expect lunch to be delivered, but that's a conversation we can have.
All right.
Thank you, Laura.
I've got some work to do. Terry,
Terry, you have work to do?
yes, I also have a report though, I haven't, well. I don't wanna call it that, good news and then the work. So I set boundaries with a friend and she trampled all over them 3 times right in a row from the conversation of 5 minutes. And then proceeded to, we were at a public place and she just left.
Mhm.
And I wasn't triggered because I realized I was in integrity with myself.
Mhm.
I was kind to her when I said it, but she didn't like what I said, so. And she hasn't called, I haven't heard from her since, and I don't feel that there's a need to do that because I feel so in integrity with myself.
Good, yeah.
It was
Well, that's the
really-
test, isn't it? It's what remains here. As we begin this practice of telling the truth, then we hold it, just like you're pointing to, Terry, we hold it here of representing ourselves. And from that place, it's, when any one of us makes a shift, that ends up being a difference in our behavior because we've been doing everything for everybody else. Or believing that we do, anyway, which is another conversation. But when that shifts, then things do start to rearrange. It's like everything gets into a different orbit, and yeah.
So my 10-year-old self didn't have those skills,
Right.
and that's what the work's around. So I have a younger brother, there was a medical crisis, so my mom and dad were with him in another state. And I was left with my aunt, who's as cozy as a porcupine.
Mhm.
And my cousin, who's my age, took me to the playground. I'd never been on the monkey bars upside down. She insisted I could do it, and I could not. I fell face first on the asphalt fall. Split open my mouth, chipped a tooth. My aunt took me to the doctor and had it stitched up, but the part that I'm really realizing, which I tapped into this week, is I had to be brave because there was nobody there for me.
Right.
It was just me to take care of me. And when my parents got back home, I don't recall them even like being too concerned that I was injured and how scary that was.
Mhm.
And to top that all off, I had headaches for a year from falling on my head.
Mm.
And I honestly don't think I told my parents about it because I guess I just thought it was part of the injury and what could they do about it anyway? They didn't seem to care too much in the first place. So yeah, that was a lot for a 10-year-old to carry.
Well, and when all of that happened, including the first injury and the porcupine hand, when all of that happened, you concluded that it meant something about you, do you?
Yeah, I just felt like I wasn't good enough for other people to really care, and I needed to take care of myself
Right.
because other people weren't gonna be there for me.
And what's true about somebody that other people aren't there for? They must be.
Not good enough.
Yeah, that is the distortion field through which then people are doing whatever they're doing, but you will have the information of that conclusion that creates the way in which you perceive reality. So oftentimes there may not be that going on at all, but you will experience that it is.
Right.
And oftentimes it may be going on because as viewed so appears, right? When we have the view that I don't matter, and then the only world we see is one in which I don't matter. So it's when the New Age people around the secret started talking about creating your own reality, which is going on long before that. But when that started being about the common conversation in New Age circles, we had no idea exactly how it worked, right? and that it's an inside job, and we have 100% access to seeing what's creating the difficulty and to dispelling that illusion, that distortion field. And then reality shows up without reflecting back to us that distortion in the lens, which was, I don't matter.
So I forgive myself for ever thinking I didn't matter. I am love, I am loving, and I am lovable.
Yes.
And I have the awake awareness from which all reality arises.
Right, and what an amazing thing to realize that I am the awareness in which everything arises. It's like, that's the way in which we start to be accountable to ourselves, right? To ourselves, to be with whatever's showing up without resistance, right? And with the information of what's showing up, like your friend who left and wasn't willing to engage and whatever you were trying to share, then that's the information you needed. And but the thing is, if the distortion lens of I don't matter starts to clear, whatever her behavior is, it will not lead you into that dark place of it's my fault and I don't matter. And so, yeah, we start to live in a different way, a different reality.
And I have to say, since these things happened, I feel more clear and like joyful, like I feel like some energy is really shifted around me.
Yeah. Yeah. The energy of being on our own behalf, of centering here, it is an energetic experience. I call it true north. It's like the energy of this being, this presence is right here. It's coherent. It's not dissipated. It's not, see, because what creates this is our attention. Did you have something, Robert?
I just wanted to have you hopefully confirm that I'm thinking correctly here that, and first of all, Terry, in my opinion, most of us have the some version of not good enough. So you're in great company by having that, because I believe almost everybody has some version of that. But that affects everything. If you think of it as a lens you look through, it would affect everything you see in dim light, in the middle of the night, in bright sunlight, at the beach, at work.
Right.
And then, but it also, somehow, I think you've said it affects the energy that we emit.
That's right.
Along the line of, if we're always vibrating at some frequency, and that's our gift or curse, whatever, to the universe. Well, then it affects all of that all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in my experience, if you get some relief in something like that, it does turn into, you're just happier all the time for no reason.
Right.
And it's just because you've got a little bit of the cloud gone that was the cloud all the time.
Right. Mm.
So
Mm.
I think that's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. We live in the frequency and the energetic domain of our conclusion about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And when that energetic domain is informed by our true nature, then it's exactly what you pointed to. It's happy. That's why when people, we talk about the process we use in the Sangha is the 6 steps to freedom process, which looks at a reaction or a wound as a trigger and takes us through finding the correlation of that with our early wounded experience, and then seeing that the distortion that was, and that it could never mean that I'm not good enough or I don't matter. So that's the practice. When we as we move through and do the work on that, the armature of the one that we've identified as, it's an energetic thing, but it starts to collapse and we come into the wholeness of our true nature, already present, already awake awareness, alive, happy, peace. We are already everything that we aspire to, but we have obscured it from ourselves with our conclusions about ourselves and others.
So Heidi has raised her hand. Heidi, will you come on video so we can spotlight you?
Sure. Hi, Polly.
Hi, sweetheart.
Heidi and Jean Vivi here.
Hi.
I was wondering if I could do a little piece of work. I've been working on it, gnawing on it, and talking with Jean Vivi about it. This afternoon, I had this feeling of shame, and I was a bit panicked about it. And what I could trace it back to was in a Zoom group that I was in earlier, I had shared that I felt that I had made some healthy choices and that I was feeling good in my body, that it had become smaller and it felt good. And I don't know, can't remember what more I said, but later when I felt this shame, that's what I could trace it back to, that there is something wrong, that that I'm not supposed to admit that I feel good in my body. So I'm triggered.
Mhm.
It's about me.
When the shame came on, what were the other feeling components, Heidi, besides the feeling of shame?
I felt guilty and scared, and just like I'd done something wrong. I just
Right.
I shouldn't have talked about that.
Right. Yeah, so with that admission, you were caught in this feeling of vulnerability. And probably an unfamiliar area of wanting to say something positive about yourself. and your body, right? When in the past, you've probably been accustomed to putting yourself down.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this shift in expression brought up a lot of energy for you,
Yes.
one part being shame.
Yes.
Yeah, so it feeling, what was the other feeling word you had? Shame
Guilty and
Guilty.
scared.
and scared, yeah. Yeah, the fear piece comes in, doesn't it? Yeah, because you're vulnerable at that point.
Yeah.
Just using that configuration of experience, what, do you have a memory of an earlier time when you felt all of that at the same time? Fear and.
Yeah, what comes to me is with my mom, I was maybe 8, and it was picture day. Um, my mom wanted me to wear a certain dress for picture day, and I didn't like that dress. And she just shrugged her shoulders and said, "All right." And she just walked out of the room. And I said, "No, no, no, okay, okay, I'll wear it." And I did. I wore that dress. Um, yeah. Uh, I just didn't want her to leave, to walk away. That just the admission that I didn't want to I wasn't aligned with her. That I didn't want to do what she wanted me to do, and that unless I did, she was going to leave, and she did.
Yeah, really scary, right? When that happened, you concluded something about yourself.
Um, well, I think like I'm a betrayer. I I'm not going along with the contract. And I think that was the case with my body. My mom and I were diet buddies and binge buddies and all of that. So to break out of that, then I'm betraying. And every time I've ever lost weight in the past, I gained it back because I'm betraying the contract. You're not supposed to feel good in your body.
Yeah. Yeah, so your conclusion about yourself was,
I'm bad.
right?
I'm not trustworthy. I break the contract.
Mhm. So that's what got installed.
Yeah.
I'm not trustworthy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's implied in that scenario with that early memory is the kind of dependency on her. In order for you to be true north, you've got to do what she says.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so
If I have my own agency, I am way off course.
exactly, that's right. So that externalizes you're externalized into finding true north out there, right?
Hmm.
And especially with authoritative women, I suspect, and maybe in the relationship with Jean Vivi, but I don't think so. So that conclusion got installed, right?
Yeah.
You can see that the one that's seeing that is the awareness. The
Yes.
awareness does not have that conclusion, right?
Right. Right.
The awareness shining of that conclusion is literally biochemically dispelling it. It's like sunlight on mold, right? That right now, what we're doing is just clearing that out of your range of consciousness. It simply does no longer apply. No.
Well, I was trying, when I was at dinner before this call, I was doing these 6 steps and I was seeing that that's not me. It's not true. But the panic was grabbing and the shame was grabbing at me still. So I didn't know, that's why I brought it here. I didn't know how to um, uh, not just be intellectual about it.
Right, yeah, well, the trick. The trick is to not resist the grabbing and pulling of the shame, and what was the other word for that?
I was panicked.
Panic, yeah, and not to resist that, to see it. It's like you're standing as awareness, is seeing that kind of grip, that kind of panic, that kind of grabbing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what we want to do at this juncture in the 6 steps, the forgiveness has a couple of different aspects to it. One is that the shining of the light, you know yourself as the one that's shining, and you can see these are objects, right?
Mhm.
That's the fundamental basis for the forgiveness step. The other piece, when there's something grabbing, when there's something that's been installed in a way, is to not resist it, but to shine the light on it. And you might even say, I know what you are. I've got this. You know, it's like this way of being without resistance, because it's our resistance to the panic and the anxiety that keeps it going.
Right.
That's the food that we pay a lot of times to keep going what we don't want. Our
Mhm.
resistance to it. It's like, if you can see it and not resist it, it's like, oh, a little mouse just crossed the floor. I need to talk to Robert about that. Not a big deal, right? Yeah, so I think
Wait, there was a mouse in Robert's house?
that was
No.
the analogy.
Oh, the analogy. I thought you just saw a mouse. I'm like, how can you see a mouse, Polly?
I should go into acting. No, so that was the observing of anything gives you the experience of that's what I have, it's not who I am. And that can be a real turning point in our sense of our identity.
But Polly,
There's a question coming in from
it's
Janine.
it's an addition to what Heidi is saying.
All right.
Because she said she didn't, hi Heidi, it's Janine, hi. She said that she didn't want to just keep it in her mind. And you and I were just talking about this today, about the conclusion and what it takes to go from the mind to the heart.
Mhm.
In terms of really feeling the one, really feeling, not resisting, the one who felt guilty and scared and ashamed. Bring that into the heart. And what you said to me, and I know you've said it 150,000. I was gonna say 150, but it's more like 150,000 other times, that to be the one you're waiting for, to feel it. And you said, I know this is wounded child work, but still to be able to put that one in your lap and to love her like you didn't feel love, not to leave her when you don't wanna wear that dress. You know, when it feels scary that your mother's walking out the door, whatever that came up, to be there for that one.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
you
Did you
reminded
get
me
that,
of that
Heidi?
today, and I forget that a lot.
Yeah.
I try to spiritually transcend. It doesn't seem
Exactly.
like, I don't think that I'm doing that,
Right.
but because I'm so verbal and mental,
Mhm.
it's really easy to skip the part of feeling this.
Right. Yeah, there
deeply
is
feeling
wounded
it.
child work to do nearly all the time. And I did skip over because I have the same, but the holding of the child to whom that aggression happened, to be there for her. I often say, you are the one that the wounded child is waiting for. We feel like it's a partner or a friend or a mother or whatever, but we're the one who abandoned the wounded child.
Yeah.
And so when we get to this juncture, thank you so much, Janine. And when we get to this juncture, there is that possibility of holding that little Heidi and saying, I'm here now. I'm the one you've been waiting for, and we've got this. Good to go here.
Yeah.
And does that come before forgiveness? I mean, is
I
that?
think it's a part of forgiveness.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It
yeah.
does seem like it's in that 6th step.
Yeah, I think it might come after, when the light of awareness is shining on everything, or it might come before, when the light of awareness is shining on the conclusion.
Right.
right? And then the adjunct to that would be the inner child work, the wounded child work.
I wonder, Holly and Heidi, if what I heard you say was, you know, mom was gonna mom started to walk out and leave, and that the conclusion could be, I can be left. If I choose me, I'm gonna be left. Something in that. Cause if you choose you, if you have a different weight than mom, if you know, you don't get her anymore, you lose her.
Right, right. I lose that like chummy. This is my, because I witnessed you having agency, Robin, and not merging with her for whatever reason. And it was like, oh, but she's abandoning Robin. So I can't do that because it's dangerous to do that. I had that, you know, that witnessing constantly, or if the boys were going against her, you know. So I had to hold on to that chumminess in order to survive. But what I'm hearing you say, I think, is that she can leave, I can be left, and I have.
But you can be with that, no, you can't be left, you can be with that child.
But the child's
But the
experience was
conclusion,
that she
that
could
from
be
the,
left.
yeah, but from if you can be with that child, you can't be left.
Yeah,
That's true, you can't be left, no matter what happens. No matter what weight you are, no matter what you wear, no matter
Mom
what,
does.
no matter what mom does, you can't be left.
Because if she chooses, she will always be with herself.
No, your spirit can't be left, is what I think you're saying.
what did he say?
Yes?
Well,
No.
you as awareness can't be left. You as I don't matter, I'm not good enough, already experiences abandonment.
Right.
As awareness, we're present and whole. Right.
I mean, I just know Heidi's story prior to that of, you know, being left in the nursery,
Right.
you know, for 5 days.
Sure. Yeah.
So I just think that this is
I do think it is.
a core thing of being left early experience of needing to hold on to mom.
And we felt that drama when you said she walked out. I mean, just when you described it, it was like, what? She didn't talk to you about it. She didn't cajole you into it. She walked out. And that was the installation. I can be left. I think that's on it. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you so much, Polly.
We have about 7 more minutes. If anyone in the room or in the Zoom room, and pull up the Zoom room.
I
Yeah.
yeah, it's so funny that the timing of this, because just before coming over here, I made a decision. I was gonna talk to my friend and be open and honest about what it is that I need. And I'm like, and now I'm thinking, wow, the world is showing up for me as I make these decisions.
Right.
And I have to tell him, he wants to come to visit here. And it's not a good time for me. And I'm trying to focus on my health and some other issues that are coming up. And I really like him, and he's a good friend, and he was an ex-boyfriend, and we have a good relationship. But I have to tell him that, you know what, that's just not good for me
Right.
this time. And it's a little scary, but I'm like, I really do have to be, you made it, said it really well when you said you have to be on your own behalf.
Exactly.
And I'm like, cause no, well, as a child, I learned that no one was on my behalf. Like honestly, I didn't feel like someone had my best interests at heart.
Right.
So I kind of, as an adult, just said, okay, well, I'm doing that, I'm gonna take over that. But yet there were ways that I didn't do that, in so many ways. But now I'm feeling like, yeah, I'm gonna have this talk tonight with him and say, you know what, it's just not a good time right now. And because
It doesn't work for me.
it doesn't work for me right now, no.
That's a whole sentence, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work for
For
me.
me, yeah.
And your need to explain, or there's nothing wrong with that. And you can tell him what the circumstances are, but not from the motivation of needing him to
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
from our own motivation of just what works for me. The abandonment has been so, it's been our whole lifetime. It happened so early on that we are so accustomed to living in it as a way of being in the world. And then the collective conditioning from out here reinforces that, like, be polite, be a good girl, don't hurt people's feelings. And now we've got the double whammy going. But coming home is the shift in frequency of being on one's own behalf is probably the most dramatic shift in consciousness that anybody can make.
I'm gonna be making another very huge decision today too. And that is, I've decided to take time off work, because I'm gonna take 2 to 3 months off because I really wanna focus on I'm doing a health program. And I wanna focus on that, and I realize that my job is very stressful in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's a good place to work, but I'm constantly multitasking, and during the day, I'm being interrupted so many times by questions from people, and I'm like, whoa, I'm just like gonna say no right now, like, this isn't. And financially, I'm like, how's that gonna work? You know, like, cause I still need to earn money, but I'm just gonna trust the universe that, you know, I'm gonna go with it. And I remember when I moved here 4 years ago, I did quit my job then, and I sold my house, and I did not have a job when I got here. And I just, I was so trusting that it was gonna all work out. But this one with doing it now is a little bit harder because, yeah, it's just gonna be a little bit harder to just say, no, you know what, I need to take this time off work right now. Yeah.
Yeah, without making it seem like magical thinking, being on your own side is a frequency shifter and the reality responds. And again, I don't want to create an equation of magical thinking for anybody, but if you're not for yourself, the world can't be for you. The external reality, the quantum field, only says yes to whoever you're being. That's always what's going on. It's a cosmic joke, but that is the way it works, right? Yeah. The good work.
Yeah.
Tina, yeah, that's, those are really important things. The rubber meets the road on being on your own side when you have to do something like that phone call. Or like leave the work and be with yourself.
Well, I realize it keeps me in my head
Yeah.
so often, and really, I wanna be in my body, I wanna be in my heart space more,
Okay.
so. Congratulations. Thanks.
Okay, we are at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
I just want to thank you, Polly, and thank
you,
Robert.
everybody. Okay.
Thank everyone, and also remind people that Polly offers her time and guidance with us by donation, and there's a donation basket in the back, or there's Venmo and PayPal for those of you who are online. And yeah, really appreciate everyone being here. So we'll take a short break and then start the meditation.
Thank you all for coming. I do want you to sit on something.
Thank you.